Hello everybody, welcome back to The Good Way Home. My name is Jenna and today I'm going to show you how you can make whipped beef tallow in your crock pot. So I have made beef tallow multiple ways, crock pot and Dutch oven. I prefer the crock pot because you just put it in overnight or for 8 to 10 to 12 hours and you don't have to think about it. On the stove with a Dutch oven, you kind of have to babysit it and stir and watch the temperature. And it's just a more hands-on approach. And I like the crock pot method because it's really hands-off. The reason that I make my own beef tallow is because my son has eczema. And I have found that whipping beef tallow mixed with coconut oil, a little bit of essential oils or grapeseed oil, castor oil, just makes a really creamy, smooth moisturizer. And his eczema does so much better when I'm using this on his skin versus any other kind of moisturizer. If you have any eczema babies or kiddos or psoriasis, you know what I'm talking about. We get our beef fat from a local farmer's market, and this one is 2.185 pounds. And this is enough, and it will last maybe like 6 months, depending on how much I'm using it. Support your local farmers. If you're lucky enough, you can go to a butcher and ask for their beef fat. But where I live, anytime I would go and ask for any kind of extra scraps or anything, they tell us that they have policies that they have to discard their beef fat. They can't give them out to the customers, which is actually really sad because I know a lot of people would love to be able to utilize just popping into a grocery store to get natural beef fat. But I'm happy to support the family that I get mine from, and they're organic. We trust the company, they're a great family, and we haven't had any issues with this beef fat. For today, I'm going to be using grapeseed oil, a little bit of coconut oil, and then just like a drop or two of this frankincense and myrrh essential oil, and that's just to kind of make it smell pleasant. But I found that the coconut oil and any kind of other oil that you add with it just makes it so much more creamier and fluffy.
So the first thing that you're going to want to do is cut open any packaging. And the best way that it's going to render down the best is if you chop it up. Don't just place the whole thing in whole. You can even do smaller pieces than I'm doing right here. You can put it in a grinder, just anything you can do to make it small so that when it cooks evenly and it gets all of that gorgeous, beautiful fat that you're going to want.
Okay, so I've got everything chopped so that it will render so much better and put in my crock pot. And I'm just going to put this on low overnight for 8 to 10 hours. And I will check back in with y'all and show you what it looks like once it does its thing. Here's also a little close-up of what it should look like, all chopped, pretty, and ready to go.
So this is the very next morning after it had slow cooked overnight, and I'm kind of gently trying to get all the little stuck pieces out from the bottom. And you want to make sure that you're putting it into a strainer over the top, and you can see where a bunch of that fat that I'm just pressing down is going back into my crock pot, because waste not. And you just want to get a strainer with a bowl underneath and some paper towels. I started off slowly ladling the beef fat over the paper towel, and then just kind of moving it around because you want to make sure that none of those big chunks are getting into your drippings. And you can see it's just this beautiful like caramel honey color. It's just fantastic. And I'm putting it back into the crock pot and boiling some water in my tea kettle, because what we're going to do is wash the beef fat, and you don't want to add cold water to this because it will solidify. So you want to make sure that you're adding extremely hot water and just giving it a good stir to mix all of that throughout. And once you do that, you just want to let it harden again. And I just chose to put mine in the fridge just to kind of speed up the process. But this is what it should look like when you're done. And I'm just going to discard all of that excess water out. No need to keep it. And then you'll just put your beef fat back into your crock pot. until it melts again. And that just took maybe an hour. And I'm going to go ahead and restrain. So this will be the second time that I am restraining the beef fat. And you can tell it's a lot, doesn't have hardly any of the chunks left, which is what you want. And you can do this process as many times as you want. I only washed the broth. I only washed the beef fat twice, but if you were going to make soap and like try to sell this or something, you may want to do it, 3, 4, 5 times just to get it super clear. But I only ever wash mine twice, and it goes back into the fridge to harden, and it took a couple hours to harden. Here I am just scooping in as much coconut oil as I think that I'm gonna need, and I'm gonna warm that up so that it gets to a liquid state. And while I'm doing that, I am breaking apart little chunks of the beef fat, and then I'll just discard that water. Not gonna keep that, but if you can notice, the bottom part of the tallow has some of the crumbs and pieces of fat still left. So I am just scraping that off very gently, because you don't want to waste not, but you want to make sure that you get any of those pieces so that what's left is just smooth, beautiful white beef tallow with no chunks of any beef fat left. So my coconut oil is melted, and I am just going to be adding some more grapeseed oil. And again, you can use any kind of oil. You can use olive oil, castor oil, anything. And then I'm adding in the frankincense and myrrh essential oil, which I should have used more because it did end up still kind of smelling beef tallow-ish. But I'm going to put all of that into my KitchenAid mixer, and I'm going to mix that on speed 2 just until it kind of starts to be kind of cohesive and all broken up and smooth. And then I'm going to let it sit for about 45 minutes, and then I'm going to spin it again and whip it again. And as you can see, it's like super white and creamy now, and it's so much thicker. So don't skip that step. I like to whip mine twice. So the first time it was still really thin. The second time, now it's beautiful and creamy, and this is what it should look like. And I'm just putting mine right back into the same container that I've always used for my son's eczema. This just stays in his room, and we all use it. Honestly, I use it with all of my kids. It's just an all-natural product that has so many benefits. I know what's in it. I'm helping the farmers. I'm helping my son's skin. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. See you next time.